The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, the ServiceNow series. Our guest today is Laurie Wheeler. Laurie is the Chief Operating Officer at the IS&T division of MultiCare Health System. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Laurie, lots to cover today, but as we do with all of our guests, we want to start with you. Could you please give us a little bit of an overview of your background in technology, from where you started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the COO for the IS&T division at MultiCare?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my career has been in healthcare for over 25 years, actually with MultiCare Health System. I started the organization, fresh out of college and thinking I'd rule the world. And I started in a clinical area, actually, in a front desk capacity. I moved quickly into IT, doing a variety of business processes, financial management, really honing in on the internal processes of IT. I grew within that. I moved into actually a corporate role, ran our EPMO. For a while, I became the chief of staff of the organization during a tremendous growth period. And so a lot of mergers and acquisitions, a lot of clinical partnership. And then I transitioned back into IT. I feel like I came back home in this current role as the COO of the IT division. Focus is on strategy to execution, mergers and acquisitions, internal processes within IT, and really partnering with our clinical staff to make sure that our technology is supporting them in the best way possible.
Wonderful. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that, the internal technology and strategy side. But before doing so, I just want to set the stage. Tell us a little bit about MultiCare Health System, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So MultiCare Health System is a healthcare organization in the Pacific Northwest, and we are roughly 13 hospitals, more than 5 billion from a revenue perspective, and we have over 300 clinics, mainly in Washington State, and we have partnerships throughout, spanning in Idaho, and other areas. And so that is who we are as an organization. We provide all levels of care, inpatient, clinical, ambulatory. We're the largest behavioral health network in the state. And so it's really the full care continuum.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So let's jump straight into your role. You talked a little bit about some of the responsibilities. So COO of the IT department that has multifaceted responsibilities. Let's start with operational efficiency as it leads to technology. So can you lay out that landscape for us and then help us visualize where ServiceNow sits in the broader strategy?
One of the major areas of my role is really all about culture, internal processes within IS&T, and obviously our investment in ServiceNow with ITSM and SPM modules. We have really invested and we want to optimize this platform. One of the things in our division, one of our guiding principles is about investing in platforms and optimizing versus necessarily a whole bunch of niche systems.
Yeah.
And so ServiceNow was obviously one of our platforms that we wanted to invest heavily in. We use it for our employee resource center, obviously for our service desk, and then all of the other elements when it comes to ITSM and portfolio management.
Yeah.
Investing in this technology is one thing. Being able to use it to the best of its capacity is another. And so that is really where I, partner with our staff and provide leadership within our staff to help us really optimize and utilize the tool as best as we can.
So thank you for that, Laurie. You very much broke it into two parts. It's the investment side, but then also optimization. Walk us through the process of optimizing the investment, how that relates to the various departments to ensure that they're taking the right approach for training, for best practice, and what does the current state look like? How impactful has ServiceNow been for MultiCare now that you've got to a point where it's implemented and working towards optimization?
We obviously practice with our ServiceNow Impact Squad. We really look at the roadmap, and we have a really solid roadmap in terms of what we want to move forward with. When we look at the different modules to focus on, we look at what are the key items that will get us there for true optimization. And so one of the things last year, actually for 2025, that we really focus on was knowledge and content, right? How do you have a very robust knowledge base? How do you have a really good virtual agent? How are you able to use that to the fullest capacity? And we know that good virtual assist, good knowledge means content has to be developed. And so what we did for all of our staff in IS&T, and we have over 400 staff members, we developed a standard goal. Like we all have goals and objectives. Everyone has a goal for developing content in a standard way that will feed into our knowledge. Because we know that knowledge, while it's not the most shiniest of activities that we can do in our day-to-day lives, it's a critical foundational piece. And so we really look at what are the foundational items that's going to take this technology to be as optimal as possible. So that's one of the activities we did for this year.
When you and the executive leadership are sitting down around this time of year, you're looking at 2025 spend and 2026 budget planning, and you're looking for ROI and you're measuring success of spend and optimization through the lens of ServiceNow. How are you and the team quantifying impact? Like, what would be the metrics for success? Is it efficiency and processing time from a ticketing standpoint? Is it improved optimization? Just help us visualize how you and leadership are actually assessing how well it's performed.
Yeah, we have depending on the area, obviously, especially when you think of the AI functionalities to roll out and the automation pieces, it's going to be reduction of calls to the service desk. What is the, number of touches that if someone actually has to touch a, ticket to move it through the system, or is there automation that has been put in place to where the ticket gets handled on its own without any sort of human intervention? So we are using those types of metrics in terms of our ROI for this system. MultiCare Health System has been an organization of quite a bit of growth over the years. And IS&T being a support system, making sure that we have a really good cost to serve. And we are continuing to have the ability to scale is a really critical piece and a really big focus for us. And so are we able to take on and partner with another organization and have additional affiliations with other hospital systems, adding, their systems and not add staff on top. So that is something that we focused on.
And I know, speaking to you off air, you were talking about the success of this year and the growth phase that you've been in, and like there's mergers and acquisitions. But each time that happens, you're inheriting somebody else's systems, data, operating, and to drive efficiency, it means with each introduction of a new organization, you have to get them working the way that you want to work.
Integrated with us.
Yeah. So what has that been like? How are you approaching that? And when you look at the roadmap ahead, taking your current state of play, current functionality of ServiceNow, and then future use cases with AI and automation, how are you navigating that complex transition?
It's always an adventure, I'll say that. And every organization and every affiliation is a little different. We recently affiliated with an organization, Overlake Hospital, in Washington State, and they were great partners. They were outsourcing their service desk and going through that process and really doing a crosswalk, right? Where are they with their technology? What systems are they using? And doing a solid crosswalk first.
Yeah.
And again, going with our guiding principles of having standard platforms, we were able to take on their service desk functionality. We actually were able to take all of the knowledge content that they have, put it into ServiceNow, and we were able to take on all of their service desk calls without adding any staff in hours. And so it was pretty incredible. It was a very smooth process, which was fantastic. Culturally, I think, their staff was very excited to be able to utilize a tool like ServiceNow. And we're continuing, they have their own roadmap of other modules that they would be integrating with that we already have, obviously, like the portfolio management and things from that perspective.
Yeah, that's such a good endorsement of the scalability and enterprise value of the ServiceNow platform. Looking ahead, you and I were speaking a little earlier about 2026 and the project roadmap and, current state of play, future investments. With the continuously improving functionality of the ServiceNow platform and the introduction of new modules, there's so much that can be done. Looking through your role, COO of the ITSM division, what are you excited about? Where do you expect you and your team be busy with ServiceNow from current use cases and possible future use cases?
I'm very excited for the continued improvements and enhancements in the Now Assist virtual agent. I think that will be an incredible benefit to our organization as well as our staff. So I'm very excited for that. We'll continue to invest in that throughout 2026. There are other areas that that we're looking at in terms of that financial module piece to the system. And so what are other support areas that we can look at to see would ServiceNow make sense? And I'm very excited in terms of, again, we invest in, I think all organizations, you invest in these technologies and they have all of the bells and whistles and you only utilize, a quarter of it. There's so much potential to unlock. You just need to make sure that you do that homework of what is the value that it can provide and making sure you actually have that follow up and follow through as to, okay, now that we've put this in place, what does this mean? Because for us, it's scalability, right? So just like with Overlake, how can we actually take on another organization without necessarily adding additional staff? And so we're really trying to find areas where there's automation. And then I think the virtual assistant will help us tremendously.
So, Laurie, final question from me then. You and I were speaking off air about, as an executive leader, the strategic importance of setting your team up for long-term success. And you gave a really good answer. So I wanna give you the platform to talk about that. And what are the things that you focus on to ensure that strategically your division, MultiCare, are taking a smart approach to adopting the right technologies for the business and making sure that it's executed well?
Yeah. In our area, we have a very solid, strong governance model. I think governance is very, very key to having, a very successful outcome as you manage different platforms. And we have I like to say, a small but mighty ServiceNow team. They've done a fantastic job of partnering with our ServiceNow Impact Squad, building that roadmap, being transparent. And then when it comes to governance, basically following the standard processes that we've implemented, right? It's following what we said we would do. Enhancements come in, we have a great governance group, we review it, it's prioritized, right? Standard scoring grids, and then, it goes to the execution, and then we follow up. I think that's really critical. I think folks, again, when you implement these technologies, all of these items you want to tackle, you can't really boil the ocean though either. And so how do you set up your roadmap? How do you look at it, from a crawl, walk, run perspective? And I think our team does a really good job. I think that sets up any group for a really successful outcome, is to put some of these foundational pieces in place.
Yeah. Laurie, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was an absolute pleasure to learn about your own background, your journey within MultiCare Health System, and most importantly, the outlook of how you're optimizing ServiceNow, its capabilities to ensure that its ROI is there. And given the ever-changing landscape of MultiCare Health System, adopting new affiliations and organizations, there's always some challenge or adventure, as you put it,
Yep.
to work on. But it sounds like your culture, your approach, your governance is allowing you to really get maximum benefit, and the impact is clear to see. So I know you've got further plans to continue to utilize the platform with Now Assist and AI. So it's exciting times, and it's a great example of how ServiceNow can help enterprises at scale. So I appreciate you sharing your story. Wish you, the team, and everyone at MultiCare the best of luck in the year ahead, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.